Hi, and welcome back to Tundra Sounds. So, a few weeks ago, I asked you guys on the Facebook group Dave Smith Tempest Users International what I should focus on in my next video. I created a poll, and most of you guys voted that I should focus on the voices, 6 voices on the DSi Tempest. And instead of creating just one video, I will create at least 3 videos. One focusing on free voices or no voice assigning at all, at least focusing on it. And the second video will be focusing on experimenting with using both together. And the third video will be focusing on forcing all your sounds to specific voices. So today, the focus will be on the free voices, the benefits, the problems associated with it. So let's get down to business. Yeah, so let's take a look at what we can do with the free voices or no voice assigning at all. And with 6 voices available, we can do something like playing a chord. So instead of just playing a triad, we can add a bass and a couple more notes to that, and then we'll have a huge chord. That's pretty awesome. So that's one of the most important benefits or advantages of using the free voices or no voice assigning. Another thing we can do with the free voices is to just force some of the sounds to one specific voice, okay? So let's say on pad 2 here, we have this kick. And I will also, let's see, add a snare to pad 3, okay? Okay, so yeah, let's just play a simple loop here. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and boom, 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 boom. Okay, I forgot something. I will go to the pads here and change it to 16 in quantize, and yes. And what we're going to do now is to force these 2 sounds to 2 different voices. No, sorry, not 2 different voices, but to one voice and pan it in either direction. So let's go to the mod path here. Sounds mod path, and this will be voice 5. This will be also voice 5, but we will pan it in either direction. So okay, this one will be all over to one side, and this one will be over to the other side. Okay, so yeah, I will add this one to, let's see, that was voice 5. Yeah, so that's the first output here. So voice 5 out. And let's see if we can hear these sounds here. Oh, I will have to adjust the input here. So that's right. Okay, so now we can hear it again. As you can hear, these are in different tracks, so I can add a reverb to one of them and another effect on the other because they are in different tracks. And so while these two sounds are using just one voice, but they are going to left and right in this interface here because the outputs are stereo, I can use the five voices that are left for the chord. So let's go to the back to this one here, and I can still play chords like this. So if I play it and I hit the click button here, turn it off, and yeah, so even though we are using the free voices and even though we are focusing on the free voices, if you assign just one of the voices to a bunch of sounds that aren't playing at the same time, you can have a little bit more control over them so that you can actually play chords with five voices at the same time. And the cool thing is that five voices is still one more voice than the mini log and the analog 4 and stuff like that. So that's a few of the ways that you can use the Tempest more or less with the free voices or no voice assigning or less voice assigning. Okay, so there's another way to use the free voices or no voice assigning that is a huge benefit in some cases. And personally, I think it's difficult to show you on the Tempest without actually showing you on paper, because let's say this is a 4-grid beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so the kick is in voice 1, so you can share the voice 1 with a snare, boom, ka, boom, ka. But you can't clap at the same time in the same voice, so I will assign the clap to the voice 3, boom, k, boom, k, again, boom, k, boom, k. Okay, so if we had some room here, we could add the hi-hats in between or something like that, but there's no room here when we have already assigned these sounds. So the hi-hats will, the open hi-hats and the closed hi-hats will share voice 2. So they will not interrupt voice 3 and 1. And then the crash will use the voice 4 because it's long, and the tail will be interrupted by all of these other sounds somewhere. And then we have the saw bass and the lead that will have each of the voices that are left. Voice 5 and voice 6. And the cool thing about when you're not assigning is that, let's say the kick is using voice 1. Let's say it just chooses voice 1, okay? Like this. And then the hi-hat will just, whatever. It will choose voice 2 on the first one, but now this one is not used, so it can use voice 1. And then it will use voice 2 because voice 1 is already used. And then it will use voice 1. So we have already compressed it a little bit more. And then the closed hi-hat can use voice 2 here. You get it? And then the clap, it can use voice 2 here. And voice 2, you cannot use voice 2 here. So it will use voice 3 or 1. No, sorry. It will use voice 3. Okay. So let's say the snare, now the snare will use voice 3. And here it will also use voice, now it will use voice 4. Because we have already used all of these others here. Yeah. And now let's see. Well, sorry. I did do something wrong here. I could erase this one because didn't use the open hi-hat in the first place, so I could actually use voice 1 here. Yeah, if I want to copy this one here. So yeah, so now the crash can use voice 4. Okay. And now the cool thing here is that the saw bass, it can use any of the available voices here. It can use, for example, voice 3 on the first note, voice 4, and then voice 3, and then voice 4. And then we still have 2 voices left because we kind of compressed it. All of the sounds were searching for available voices instead of being forced to specific voices. They were searching for available open spots within the voices that are available here for us. So the lead can use, for example, voice 5 here, and here it can use voice 5. But here it can actually use voice 4. So, and here it can use voice 5 again. This means that we have a lot more available spots here. And the other cool thing is, because we still have one more voice, that particular voice can be used to make the tails of each of these sounds to sing for a longer time, and they won't interrupt each other like they do when they are assigned to specific voices. It's a little bit difficult for me to show you, but I will either I will do it someday, or another person will do it another day probably. Yeah, but you get it right. When you have assigned the voices, they will be forced to the voices. You cannot do anything. When they're not assigned, they will search for available open spots. So for every time you get a hit here on any drum or sound, you can hit up to 6 different sounds at the same time, unless the decay of a sound before it is singing, and then it will cancel out the last part of that sound. Yeah, so yeah, those are some of the cool benefits of using not assigned sounds instead of using the assigned sounds. Yeah, so those are some of the benefits of using the free voices, or focusing on the free voices at least. And of course, there are some downsides to using the free voices as well. It's more difficult to get control over your sounds, and it's difficult to record the different sounds to different tracks on your DAW or a multi-track recorder and stuff like that. And I think one of my next videos will show you why it's a benefit sometimes to assign your sounds to different voices, because it will be proved in the next videos. Yeah, so that was a few different ways to approach the free voices, no voice assigning or less voice assigning, mainly focusing on the free voices. And I want to hear your opinion on this and your experience in this, okay? So the questions of today is, why do you use the free voices or less or no voice assigning? When do you use it? And how do you use it? And please leave a comment below if you have anything to tell us about this. And if you liked the video, hit that like button. If you want to watch more videos about this, hit the subscribe button. And yeah, see you next time.